Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is the Unexplained Archive. You know, living in New York, you get used to a certain kind of noise. The constant hum of the city, the chatter of a million separate lives, all talking over each other, all trying to be heard. It's a symphony of individuality. But what if you shared your entire world, your thoughts, your very voice, with just one other person? And what if that bond was so deep, so absolute, that the outside world became almost irrelevant? That's the haunting reality we're exploring today. The story of June and Jennifer Gibbons, known to the world as the Silent Twins. Picture this: Dolgellau, a quiet town in Wales in the 1960s. A family of Caribbean immigrants trying to build a life. And two identical twin girls, bright-eyed and inseparable. To outsiders, their childhood seemed normal at first. But as they grew, a peculiar pattern emerged. June and Jennifer would speak to each other, a rapid, idiosyncratic language all their own, but they would almost never speak to anyone else. Not to their parents, not to their other siblings, not to teachers or classmates. They developed what psychiatrists called elective mutism. They had chosen silence. But with each other, the communication was constant, telepathic almost, conducted in whispers and private jokes. They built a complete, self-contained universe for two. And as they entered their teens, that universe began to warp under its own pressure. Their isolation wasn't peaceful. It was turbulent, creative, and eventually destructive. Shut out from the world, they created their own. They became prolific writers, filling notebooks with dark, elaborate stories of crime, passion, and revenge under pen names like Pepsi and Maxine. They wrote plays, novels, a staggering output born from a shared imagination. But this creative furnace also fueled a shared rebellion. Their behavior escalated from minor mischief to arson and theft. It was as if their private world had no moral compass that applied to the outside one. They were operating on a different frequency, a feedback loop of two minds. And the British legal system, utterly baffled by them, did the only thing it could think to do. At the age of 19, they were deemed a danger to themselves and others and sent to Broadmoor Hospital, a high-security psychiatric institution typically reserved for the criminally insane. They would spend the next 11 years there, not for a violent crime, but for the crime of being an unfathomable, closed unit. Now, this is where the case takes its most profound and unsettling turn. Throughout their lives, the twins had developed a mythology around their own bond. They believed they were two halves of one whole, and that for one to live a full, independent life, the other had to die. They made a pact. It sounds like something from one of their own Gothic novels, but they were deadly serious. And then, after over a decade in Broadmoor, they were transferred to a less restrictive clinic. It was supposed to be a step toward freedom, a new beginning. Within hours of arriving, Jennifer was dead. She had developed a sudden, acute myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart. There was no poison, no foul play. Every test came back clear. It was as if her body had simply agreed to the pact. June, for the first time in her life, was utterly alone. And in the wake of her sister's death, she began to speak. Not in whispers, but freely. To doctors, to journalists, to her family. The silence was broken. When asked about it, she said simply, "I am free at last, liberated, and at the same time, I feel bereft." So what do we make of this? As an engineer, I'm trained to look for systems, for logic, for cause and effect. But some human experiences resist that wiring. The Gibbons twins challenge our very understanding of consciousness. Was it a case of extreme codependency, a folie à deux where two people share a psychotic delusion? Or was it something more connective? They often described feeling physical pain when separated by even a room. They claimed to read each other's thoughts. They wrote in such a unified voice that it's impossible to untangle who wrote what. This isn't just sisterly closeness. This suggests a shared cognitive space, a psychic entanglement that science is only beginning to scratch the surface of with concepts like mirror-touch synesthesia or the mysteries of twin telepathy studies. I think about them often, June and Jennifer. Growing up in Bangladesh, I was surrounded by the dense, interconnected web of family and community. Your identity is never just your own. It's reflected and shaped by everyone around you. But the twins represent the absolute extreme of that, a closed circuit of two. Their story is a tragedy, yes, a A tragedy of misdiagnosis, of a system that didn't know how to help them, of a bond that became a cage. But it's also a profound mystery. Did Jennifer's body literally surrender to a shared belief so powerful it could stop a heart? Or was it a catastrophic, coincidental illness that fulfilled their darkest prophecy? We'll never know for certain. Their silence was never empty. It was full, overflowing, in fact, with stories, with conflict, with a whole world they built because the real one couldn't accommodate them. They force us to ask uncomfortable questions about where the self ends and another begins, about the price of absolute understanding and the terrifying weight of being truly known. June, who is alive and reportedly living a quiet life in Wales today, carries that weight alone. She got the independent life they believed was only possible for one. I wonder, when she speaks now, if she ever hears an echo of that other voice, the one that shared her first thoughts, her first words, her first stories. Thank you for listening to this journey into one of the most enigmatic human stories I've ever encountered. If this episode resonated with you, if it made you think about the bonds that define us, please share it with someone. Your support is what allows us to keep digging into these archives of the unexplained. For more episodes, and to dive deeper, visit our home at Light Not Studios. https://www.lightnotstudios.com. I'm Abnul J. Farabi. Until next time, keep wondering.